I'm Stuart Broad at Headingley. He's Josh Buttler at home. And before we get on to the first test match of the series, England versus India, which has been an absolute cracker. Jose, last time I saw you, you were talking me through your focus at the parents' race at your daughter's sports day. Tell us, how did you get on?
Yeah, it's a bit of a disappointing story, really, Brody. Obviously, we've had some great weather in England that we cannot moan about, but 30 degrees on Friday. So we had a note from the school saying the sports day had been shortened and the parents' race cancelled. So as you can imagine, really deflated me. As much as I was excited to watch her run and do the egg and spoon race and the sack race, etc., I was more focused on myself. And so, going to have to wait till next year now.
Hang on a minute, why have they cancelled the parents' race? What, you can cope with 30 degrees, can't you?
I can definitely cope with 30 odd degrees, places that we've played cricket. But yeah, shame. More importantly, I think the listeners will want to hear about Headingley. So I've watched a little bit on the TV. You've obviously been working at the game. It's lived up to the hype, hasn't it?
That's been incredible. Honestly, it's been awesome. And it's had so much drama and question marks over decisions and everything that you sort of want from a huge series. It had been talked about a lot leading in, and then Stokesy wins the toss and bowls on a bright blue sky day at Headingley, and a really nice pitch. I think it's been a cracking test match pitch, but I actually will still lean on the side that Stokesy made the right call there, because at Headingley it does get better to bat, and he knows his teams, he likes to bowl first and set the tone. But India played beautifully. I know you've talked quite a bit about the Indian batters and guys you like and you've played a lot with, but Jaiswal on that first day getting 100, and then Pant, who is just, I can't think that I've seen more of an entertainer, to be honest. He everything he does, he just draws you in. I think he's one of those players, those batters that when he gets to the crease, you just want to sit down in your seat, turn on your TV, turn on the radio and listen to what's coming. You know, two innings he's played, second ball he charges and tries to hit a six, you get really glued to him. I mean, you must have played quite a bit against him. Is he this? I suppose the word is like flair. Is he this flair every single innings?
Yeah, he's been amazing, hasn't he? And it's nice to see when you say something before a game about how box office he is, and the guy you'll turn the TV on, and he's had an incredible test match, 200s in the match. I think the second keeper only to Andy Flower to have done that. So, and the style that he does it is amazing. And actually thinking about Rishabh, it sort of took me back to when I first came across him, and I had to check the scorecard because just to jig my memory, but we played a warm-up game, England versus India A, on the 2017 one-day tour at the Brayborn Stadium, and it's one of the first times I saw him. He'd played in the IPL for Delhi before that. Sam Billings had told me about how Rishabh Pant, this guy, you got to watch him, he just loves to smash spinners. And I think he came in and Mo was bowling. First ball, charges down, massive whoosh at it. Whether it went into the stands or not, I can't remember. But he scored 59 off 36 in that game. So sort of that was keeping to these guys is just so exciting, isn't it? You're sort of like, I'm always in the game, but it's and amazing. And then I think you'll remember 2018 was his test debut. And having played against him a little bit, Adil Rashid was bowling when Rishabh came into bat, and I think I remember being sort of at short mid-wicket, and everyone knew Rishabh loves to take on spin and try and smash it, and it wasn't his first ball that he hit for six, but he hit his second ball in Test cricket into the Trent Bridge changing rooms, I think. So he's had this about him, and it's amazing really how Test cricket is just, I would say, his best format. The way he plays in one days and T20s, but the fact that he can affect the game for longer, the fact that he can put teams under so much pressure. It's a question I wanted to ask you. How, as a bowler and as a captain, do you plan for someone like this? Because he's got a really good defence, and there's times where he doesn't really pick the bat up and just has got a solid block, and then from nowhere he charges down the wicket and hits one into the stands or swing and a miss, and it must really put you off. As captain, if I was against that, I'm sort of like, okay, do I spread the field? Do we keep catches in? Is it going to go to slip if he's swinging this hard? But then he sort of drops back down a few gears and plays normally. And Harry Brook did a very similar thing in his innings, charged down the wicket, smashes one into the stands, and then has got a brilliant forward defence. So how, as a bowler, are you planning for a guy like Rishabh Pant? Like, what are you expecting him to do?
Yeah, it's a bit of a nightmare, to be honest. I mean, one thing I noticed when he was walking off with both hundreds, the Headingley crowd were all on their feet, like really appreciating everything that he'd done and the quality he'd shown, which, English crowds have always been supportive of opposition teams and players when they do well. But this was probably the biggest sort of clap and hand I'd seen since Tendulkar's last tour here. But yeah, when bowling at it, I've bowled him quite a few times in Test match cricket. The same ball can be left, can be blocked, can be scooped, can be danced at and hit over your head. So you need to have this mindset that you're almost ignoring what he does. You can't try and predict necessarily what he's going to do because he moves so late. He's really athletic, quick on his feet. So when he dances at you, you get no real cue or clue that he's coming. So you get into your delivery stride, you load up, you're about to deliver the ball into length and suddenly runs at you and hits you over your head. And he's also tried to scoop me over the keeper as well before. So I think what you have to decide to do is like, what's my best ball to get him out? And conditions will dictate that slightly. If you get a pitch that's bouncing and seaming, I would go across him from over the wicket, trying to seam the ball away with 3 slips and hoping you get the ball outside his eye line and he nicks it to slip. But when it's not necessarily seaming like this Headingley surface, you just have to try and bowl your best ball, whether that's running back into the stumps, into length, and if a bit sort of that old school saying, if he misses it, you hit, really, if he makes a mistake. And we saw Ben Stokes go quite defensive to him, had no slip after lunch on day 4. And typically, you keep a slip all day, don't you? 90 overs, 6 balls and over, slips there all day, doesn't get a look. You take the slip out, big nick, would have gone straight to Joe Root. He's not there, 4 runs, and then 2 balls later the slip comes back. So I think it's quite important you don't chase him in a sense. You just keep it as basic and simple as you can, and realise that you bowl your best ball. If that best ball goes for 4 or 6 anywhere in the ground, you're still delivering your skill. You're still delivering the process that you're trying to get down there. So yeah, I think we're going to, what a start to the series. 200s in 2 innings. He's now scored more hundreds than MS Dhoni in Test match cricket. Let's just let that sink in for a minute. Think how much of a legend and a god MS Dhoni is. So yeah, he's India's best ever keeper batter, without a doubt. And England are going to have to find a way to get him out, because if he keeps scoring runs quickly at number 5, India are going to get themselves in some strong positions.
Yeah, and it was a great partnership, wasn't it? The partnership batting with him and KL Rahul, just sort of fire and ice, really. So, and as a bowler, that must be difficult when one guy's sort of playing one style and leaving the ball well, very technically correct, very patient at certain times, and then the whole game flips on its head when the other guy gets on strike. And do you sort of get preoccupied with one player, and then your plans, is that difficult with your rhythms and obviously left and right and different styles?
Part of the skill of Test match bowling is being able to adapt to different players, hit different lengths to different styles, all that sort of thing. Actually, Dinesh Karthik, who's in the room next to me, described it wonderfully on commentary, where he says it's like listening to classical music one end and hip hop the other. And I think that was a really good description of the style of batters, of how different they were. And they're at different sort of, not ends of their career. KL Rahul's not an old player, but he's a vastly experienced player. And, they both have figured out exactly the styles of batting that they want to put out, and crucially, both of them play the ball late, which in England is what you have to do. So it's been a brilliant start from both those players, and the Indian batting unit. Well, the Indian top 5 in the first 2 innings, the batting collapses will be a concern for them, and that's credit to England as well, because they've hung in the game as long as possible. I suppose the last thing, we could spend 5 hours talking about Rishabh Pant, but did you see his forward flip?
Remarkable celebration, is it? It's nearly as exciting as as the innings itself. Rishabh actually had a really tough IPL. He was bought for the most amount of money, new franchise with the Lucknow Super Giants, and he'd had for such a star player, big price tag, captain of the side, he had a really quiet time of it. But his last couple of knocks, he got going, and I think he scored 100 in his last innings in the IPL. And I saw him pull out that celebration, which, you talk about an athletic guy, incredible mover. I know he can do that thing off his back where he springs up sometimes where he's keeping and he's back onto 2 feet. But you got to remember, this guy's sort of walked away somehow from an incredibly scary car accident. I think he's had bad injury to his knee from that and various things. So it's brilliant that he's still got that athleticism and has pulled out a Headingley Test match. Quite a how a Headingley crowd would take that kind of celebration, but obviously it sounds like he's gone down an absolute treat up there. He didn't pull it out for the second one though, did he? I think did he put that away?
No, apparently he did some sort of like PSG signal over his eye or something. Like, is there a PSG celebration? But have you ever done anything a little bit out of character or a bit wild for 100 celebration? Obviously, we've seen Ruti do the bat drop against India in ODI. We've seen Misbah Huq do some press ups. We saw Nasser Hussain when I was a kid batting number 3 in an ODI, just screaming and roaring at the press box that had been giving him some stick. But can you remember anything that you've done a little bit out of the ordinary?
I think my favourite celebration would have to be I hit Sheldon Cottrell for a 6 and saluted him.
Yeah,
which
cracker.
It's probably I'd say it's probably the coolest thing I've ever done in the game. So me and Morgs were having a really good partnership in the game, and he got Owen Morgan out, and we were sort of, I don't know, we must have been 350 plus at this stage, had a nearly 200 partnership, and he saluted him off, and it kind of irked me a bit, sort of thinking, where's that celly come from when we're so far on top? And then the next over I got on strike and hit him for a 6. So I don't know really why, but he was just sort of looking at me and I saluted him. But it was that time in the innings where everything must go. You got to try and hit 6 every ball. And as he's running up for the next ball, I'm thinking, you've just saluted this bloke. If he gets you out now, he's going to go to absolute down on you. So I sort of fake slogged the next ball along the floor for a 2, just to sort of save face. But yeah, that's probably my best celebration. And thinking about celebrations, can you remember Dave Mohammed, who was a left arm wrist spinner for the West Indies? He used to get people stumped, and he would take his shoe off and make a phone call. And I was actually Googled that, why he does it. If you can't read me, you shouldn't be coming out. And he's calling you out on the phone. He calls you out your crease and stumps you. So he's got a few good celebrations. It's actually a worthwhile read. He does like the alligator. He said there's another one where he calls the tic tac. So Dave Mohammed from the West Indies got some brilliant celebrations. Anyone else you can think the celeb appeal that you kind of trademarked is pretty standard, isn't it? But is there anyone else out there that we can think of with some pretty rascal sellies?
No, I remember it. Again, it's something about this salute in the West Indies. There was Ben Stokes was having a bit of a ding-dong with Marlon Samuels during a test match series, and Stokesy got out, not even to Marlon Samuels. I think Marlon Samuels was probably just fielding slip. And Marlon Samuels ran to where Stokesy would be walking past him back to the changing room and just took his hat off, put it on his chest and saluted. Didn't even look at Stokesy, but just saluted Stokesy as he walked past. I think everyone in our changing room was like, oh no, what's going on here? But that was, they always had a little bit of a jibe, didn't they? They always had a bit of a battle,
flair,
those two.
They? Oh yeah, they did have a big battle, which, sort of, it was always, he gets himself in a few battles, doesn't he, Stokesy? So, can I just take you back to the toss? So, you mentioned England bowling first, Headingley. The stats obviously recently say, it's good chasing ground, and that the word chase is amazing, isn't it? It's such I remember one of the first test matches of Stokesy's reign, I actually came into the dressing room just to, I don't know whether it was an injury or something, and I remember seeing you on the physio bed somewhere, just having a mass, and you said, you can't believe, did you hear what Stokesy said at the toss? And I was like, no, what did he say? He said, instead of having a bowl first, he said, we're going to have a chase. And it's like such a unbelievable thing to say, isn't it, at the toss? So what is that kind of, where does that confidence come from, or the different kind of mentality? Because it always used to be you have a bat first, and if you think about bowling, you think about it, and then you still decide to bat. So the game is set up amazingly well, isn't it, with both sides probably confident of a result, and England will be full of confidence they can chase those runs down. But just take us through that mentality of that dressing room, and also maybe following on from that, when you are a bowler and you choose to bowl, does that add a different pressure to your bowling innings?
Well, yeah, I'll pick up on that first bit, the pressure it adds to the bowler of bowling first. And however much Test cricket you've played, I think you'll always feel that when the captain goes, OK, we're going to have a bowl. You've won the toss, we're having a bowl. You're trying to tell yourself, I don't have to bowl the team out today. We don't have to get all 10 wickets. It's not 160 all out, 270, 280 at the end of the day for 7 is perfectly fine. But you do find yourself chasing wickets and feeling a pressure to certainly make the ball talk in those first 10 overs as a new ball bowler. So there is an added pressure, but I also think opening batters would feel that exact same pressure to set the tone if you win the toss and bat. So I think that's quite a natural thing, and that's why it takes a bit of time to get used to opening the bowling and bowling those first balls in a test match and test match cricket. Stokesy just has a preference to bowl first. I think he backs his batting unit that they can almost chase anything, backs his bowlers that they can restrict teams to an amount that they feel comfortable getting in the fourth innings. And maybe that's come through your era of the 50 over stuff being so successful with Owen Morgan as captain, and you guys quite regularly getting sort of 350, 400 plus. It's that sort of tempo in the fourth innings that the guys are looking to play with. They are treating it like a 50 over game. They're saying, OK, if there's any ball that's loose, we're going to hit it for 4. We're going to take on the bowlers. We're not going to let them settle into line and length. It's an incredible mindset that has worked relatively successfully since Stokesy took charge. If you think about the chases that England have managed, 378 for 3 at Edgbaston against India, 290 odd, I think, at Headingley against New Zealand. Johnny Bairstow's incredible 100 at Trent Bridge against New Zealand in the same series. I'm not going to, for a second, try and remember all the scores, but it has been an unusual amount of chases that England have managed to put together under Ben Stokes. And I think that's a mentality in the change room. Even day 4 at Headingley, India are getting 360, 370 ahead. And India are feeling the nerves that England will chase it. England's mindset and communication and language in the changing room will all be, this pitch is pretty flat. Actually a rapid outfield. You get a few away early. If you get to 100 for 3, you're well on. You find someone can definitely get 150 and win us the game on this pitch. So it's not kidding your mind that you're ahead of the game, but you're certainly telling your brain positive thoughts and telling the whole group positive thoughts that you can go and do it. And at our after-match interviews today, we had KL Rahul, brilliant 100, came in and said, the pitch is going up and down, difficult to bat, we'll create 10 chances, it's a good pitch to bowl on day 5. He got replaced by Josh Tongue, who came in, it's flat, it's not really doing anything, whatever comes our way, we'll score the runs. And it's amazing the mentality of the two teams that how they battle. And I think that's why it's going to be such a fascinating series, because we've got two really quite youngish batting lineups, but full of ability, full of boundary hitters, full of flair. Harry Brook and Rishabh Pant batting 5 in each team is just spectacular. And two bowling units that Jasprit Bumrah, you know exactly what you're getting, world-class best bowler. But the rest you're not 100% sure what's coming. So it does feel that anything could happen in these later innings. It wouldn't be a surprise at some stage in this series if a team chases 350, 400. It wouldn't be a surprise at some stage in this series if a team gets bowled out for 70. It's really fascinating, and Test match cricket has a way of just drawing you into a sort of a beautiful way of watching the game. And I must say, I can't really remember what question you asked me, but I feel like I answered maybe half of it.
No, I was asking about that mentality of the chase, which I think is, I don't really think of any other team that has wanted to do that so much or been as successful as these guys. And I think one of Stokesy's greatest strengths is that force of will and that never say die, that personality. And you know that he's done those things himself before. You think of Headingley in 2019, which is, you know, probably the best test innings that there's ever been. And so he believes he can do anything. And it, sort of no matter what decision he makes, one of, I would believe, is his greatest skills as well, is even if he may have got it wrong or he might do something, he's got this ability to just make it work, and just through sheer force of will to be like, we're going to make this work. So I can't imagine there's any ounce of regret about his decision at the toss so far. He just fully believes that we'll do it, and that confidence and everything rubs off to the group. And you know McCullum will be saying the same things, and he's got some other leaders in that side, and they'll be full of confidence. But like you say, it's a game of poker, isn't it? Because on the other side, they'll be trying to say the absolute opposite. But I think that's where this England team have been so watchable and so exciting over the last few years. It should be really tough to do, but there's that element that we all think, yeah, they could do this. Broadie, as a bowler, one thing that must always annoy you is drop catches. I don't think personally there's a worse feeling in the game than dropping a catch. But there's been a few go down at Headingley. It's a pretty tough viewing ground, I think, for the slips and stuff. But what were your reactions to drop catches? I saw Bumrah say he just tries to smile and move on to the next one. But were you as relaxed as that?
Bit easier for Bumrah when he's creating a chance every couple of balls, isn't it? But actually, I remember you doing me in St Lucia a couple of times at second slip. Really, that's why I was smiling when you were talking about it, because you sneaked into second slip, wanted to hit you hard, hit the floor. Tough chance came, hit the floor, and you were like, that's it, I'm out of here, I'm not doing this anymore, I'm out of second slip, get me to fine leg, which always used to make me smile. But yeah, you know, it's one of those things.
Just on that as well, I ran off to fine leg embarrassed, thinking I'm never going in there again, so I swapped with Moeen Ali, and then 2 overs later he took a one-hander at third slip or something, and was like, typical don't know what all the fuss is about, mate, it's easy in here. So great way to make you feel. But anyway, back to the test match, drop catches. Getting
20 wickets in a test match is difficult enough. If you have to go and take 25, 26 because you're putting catches down, your bowling attack's going to have to be doing something incredibly special. So no one means to drop them. It's a horrible feeling when you do, and you don't want to look at the bowler for a period of time, do you? You feel a bit gutted that you've let them down, but you just need to find a way to put it behind you and sort of get back on the horse, really.
Yeah, when you've put a catch down, there's that horrible moment where you're like, I'm going to have to run past him and just do the most pointless apology. Now run past you when I've dropped them and be like, oh, sorry, Broadie. And you go, yeah, it's all right, mate. And it's just the most awkward, horrible feeling on a pitch. And dropping a catch is just horrendous because you've let your team down, you've let your mate down who's worked so hard to create that chance. And you know the Sky cameras will be, every time that guy you've dropped hits a 4 or something, that pans back to you and your face, there's nowhere to hide. It's a really tough thing. But like you said, it's part of the game. It happens. No one means to drop them, but it's a huge part of Test cricket. Like you said, if you can. Also, Jose, like the big screen is a nightmare in those grounds. So you've put a catch down and you're sort of hoping the world forgets about it. And then for the next half an hour, they're replaying it on the screen, and then you have all your teammates looking up at the screen going, oh yeah, that was a dolly, wasn't it? How's he not caught that? And you get that groan from the crowd again and again, don't you? Like, oh my God, how's he dropped that? And you're never happy, you're never happy at full stop, but there's a bit of an element of relief when that guy you've dropped finally gets out. But like you mentioned, if you've dropped Joe Root, who averages over 50 in Test cricket, it means there's a good chance he'll probably go on and get 100. So if you give him 2 goes, so it's a huge part of the game, and will be, probably a big part of the game tomorrow. Like you mentioned, India trying to win the game, needing 10 wickets. They want to be only creating 10 chances. And obviously if you give some of those guys a life in that England lineup, then just gives you even more confidence that you can go on and chase that down.
Yeah, and it was Harry Brook who they gave some lives to in the first innings. So Bumrah got him out for naught with a no ball, and then a couple of drop catches along the way. And I think Harry Brook on 99 goes for a big pull shot, top edges it to fine leg. He would have been hoping with all his heart that fine leg shelled that and put it on the floor, and he gets to celebrate 100 at his home ground. You know, it's 99 is just one of those scores that is the most devastating score for any batter to get out on. You remember hundreds, of course. It's one of those things. You always talk about people that get hundreds, but I feel like people remember 99s just as much as 100 because there's so much emotion around that. I mean, you were watching live when Brookie went for that shot. Were you thinking, no, don't catch it?
Yeah, it's horrible. And 99 is such a horrible score to get at. You'd start the day, if someone gives you 99, you take it every day but at the same time, you kind of don't, because you get that far, you want to score 100. And yeah, he looked like he tried to keep that one down, didn't he? And just went straight down fine leg's throat for a pretty simple catch. But yeah, I think we're all, as much as we all play for the team and we want what's best for the team, those milestones, they don't come around very often. You don't get the chance to score a Test 100 very often at all. Well, some guys will obviously do it a few more than others, but yeah, it would have definitely been in his mind, and the thought of how many times you come down that road on his own ground as well, of course, and he's scored quite a few hundreds away from home so far, so wanting to get that another 100 at home and at Headingley, but it's brutal because you've played so well to score that many runs, and it's just one more run, but deep down that feeling that you get to celebrate 100, especially for your country. I think, for scoring 100 for your country is just amazing. And I think we all are there's an element of not selfishness, but you want that moment. And 99 is a brutal thing. I actually got out for 99 in a one-day game in Antigua, and it would have been my first one-day 100 at the time. And again, I was really thinking about it a lot, and I
was captain.
Yeah,
I
you were captain that side, and it was again the sort of end of the innings, and you're everything must go. You got to slog every ball, and I found myself on 99. Ravi Rampal was bowling like a traditional spinner's field, which for our listeners means sort of the whole leg side. There's no one there. There's a huge gap. He's an easy. So I'm sort of in my head, I'm like, I could knock an easy single, but the game is meaning I need to try and keep hitting fours and sixes. And I just sort of shamefully sort of like, I'll try and knock a one. And it was sort of there to hit really. But because I've tried to hit this single, I've top edged it, simple caught and bowled. And from that moment, it was a great lesson really, because I was like, if you ever get in that moment again, no matter what your personal score is, just keep playing for the team, keep trying to smack it if you need to or whatever. So yeah, I learned a harsh lesson, and but I got 96 the other day as well I'm talking about myself a lot here, but
well played, mate. Well played.
But again, it's a great feeling because you've scored a lot of runs, but like I said, I haven't, you don't get a chance to score 100 for England very often. So as happy as you are to have played well and done well for the team, you are disappointed.
Well, it was 32 years, I think, this week where Michael Atherton famously got run out on 99 at Lords, where Gatting turned him back and he fell in a heap on the floor. I feel like that's probably, in English cricket, the most famous 99 because the Lords Honours Board. So
have you been mentioning that in the combox? Tell us a bit about the combox. What's it like? How does it compare to the England team? And yeah, it's you're giving Athers a bit of a rib about his 99.
Yeah, I mean, basically it's Atherton 99 run out at Lords and Nasser Hussain winning the toss in bowling at Brisbane and conceding like 700 or whatever they did. So they're the general go-tos for Nasser and Athers. But I must admit, I came from an England changing room, retired in end of July 2023. And I think when you leave a changing room, a lot of people that I've spoken to say that's what they miss about playing cricket, playing football, whatever. You miss that changing room environment. So I think when you're playing, you see the TV and radio pundits around and you might just go, oh, you're right. yeah, you're right. Oh, do you hear what Nasser said? You know, your feet aren't moving properly, or just ignore it, you know, all that sort of stuff. But so you don't get to know them especially well, but I feel like I've moved into a changing room in the Sky commentary box. You know, you go out you get off air at 7, get back to the hotel, you go out for a bite to eat, you spend time with them like you do your teammates in the England changing room. So it's been really wonderful. You know, they generally take the mick out of me for actually making effort with my clothing. You know, Ather's probably the worst dressed pundit in the world. Nasser Hussain just wears the same thing every single day. He might swap his shirt if you're lucky, but it's brilliant fun. There's a lot of banter. I think you can tell that on the mic. Actually, you can tell that the guys really enjoy each other's company. They like each other. Everyone feels welcome. And you know what I would say to any England player. I know you've done bits and bobs on the TV. I think it's such a valuable thing while you're still playing to go and do a day. We had Mark Wood on Saturday in the change room, the Sky Sports commentary box, and I just think it helps players see that it's just an opinion. It's not a personal attack. It's just working out different things to say about different techniques that the viewers might find really interesting. So yeah, I would say to anyone that's playing or starting off in international cricket, ask and say, can I do a day in the pod during a Blast game or a 100 game, and just go and experience what it's all about, because it's brilliant fun. And I feel very, very lucky that I've settled into something that I genuinely enjoy. I get to go on the pitch in the mornings, have a look at the footholds and how the pitch has changed. And, you know, looking back, if you'd have told me that as a 12-year-old kid, that I'd have played for England, but also get to go and look at what Test match pitches are like day 3 and 4 up close. You know, even that's really exciting for me. I like watching pitch reports, and think that I've had the chance to go and do that, watching Tony Gregg shove a car key down a crack in a pitch. You know, I sort of want to do that myself, but car keys don't have the same sort of flow to them anymore, do they? The same shape to them. But yeah, you know, it's wonderful. I've loved everything about it, to be honest, and you know, long may it continue, hopefully.
Yeah, you mentioned worst dress being Athers. DK's been a part of that Sky commentary box. He's pretty stylish, and he's next door to you, isn't he? So are you sharing the same stylist, or does he wake you up in the morning with hairdryer going and that kind of vibe?
I think he must have bought 4 or 5 suitcases up to Leeds. Honestly, he is just the most perfectly dressed human being. Every single morning, everything's beautifully ironed and steamed and shaped, and he takes a lot of care and attention. I've noticed he swaps his shoes throughout the day as well, just for different looks at times, just to sharpen himself up. Beautifully dressed.
With then? Does he take a suitcase to the ground?
He doesn't take. He takes a backpack with a few different bits and bobs in, I think. But he's got so many clothes with him. He really goes to town on his different looks. But he's a really, really sharply dressed man. On day 4, wore a beautiful cream sort of pinstripe double-breasted jacket that got a lot of compliments from everyone but Michael Atherton, I think. Yeah, he generally just
he wears the same clothes on the treadmill.
Yeah, exactly. He finds it hard to compliment anyone on their dress sense, I think. But it's a lot of fun.
Broadly, a question from one of our listeners, Nick, who wants to know, so far in the game, who has played the best innings. There's been some great hundreds so far. Rishabh Pant's got 2, but in what you've been watching, who's had the most impactful one? A great one from Ollie Pope, 100 at number 3.
Gosh, yeah, great question. They've all been superb in their own way. I think anytime a foreign player comes to England and scores 100 in the first Test match, means they've settled brilliantly into the conditions, adapted to the conditions. KL Rahul, I'm thinking of in the second innings, just being that anchor. But I have no doubts that Ollie Pope was under the most pressure. Came in after the first over, Bumrah, brand new ball, charging in, cloudy, lights on, nipping around. And Ollie Pope has had question marks over his spot in the side at batting number 3. I think quite unfairly at times, actually. I think he's a wonderful teammate. I sat next to him in the changing room a lot. I always had huge faith that he'd go and score runs and play match-winning innings. But there has been question marks, maybe because Jacob Bethel's waiting in the wings and looks a fine player. But to come out in that situation, Bumrah, best bowler in the world, on fire. He's the guy who moves the ball the most in the world. And he came in, settled everything down after losing Zach Crawley in the first over, and played exactly how you want Ollie Pope to play. He was quite calm, calculated in his first 25, 30 balls, played eye-catching strokes, was busy, was getting off strike, was putting the fielders under pressure, was able to build partnerships with Ben Duckett and Joe Root. And I think for me that means that was the most valuable 100 in the Test match, not necessarily the most valuable in the reliance of the result, but just for personal reasons for that player. He's put that conversation to bed, in my opinion. He's England's number 3. He averages just shy of 45 batting number 3 for England, so he deserves that spot. He's now scored back-to-back hundreds in Test match cricket for England, so he plays the rest of this series for sure. And you know, I've made a bit of a pundit's mindset this series not to even try and talk about what's coming. We all know what's coming. We're going to Australia. It's the Ashes. We love it. We live for it. We dream about playing them. We want to win them. But I've sort of made a bit of a goal as a pundit not to look that far ahead and talk about reasons. We're playing India right now. This is all that matters. It's India in England, a huge series, 5 Test matches, and Ollie Pope is my number 3 for this series because he deserves to be. He's wearing that shirt. That is his shirt. He's earned it. He's put some tough runs on the board, and I was thrilled for him. You know, when you know someone really well, I class Pope as a really good mate, and he scored that 100 and he like punched the air with a real feeling in his face. I could feel the passion. I could feel the emotion and everything that getting from 99 to 100 meant for him. So I was thrilled for him, to be honest. And that conversation is put to bed. Ollie Pope is England's number 3.
Yeah, I just think on the back of that, you know, that exactly that emotion that you saw. We talked about how gutting it is to get a 99, but to score 100, especially when, you know, people rightly or wrongly are talking about your position in the side. You mentioned he came in the second over of the game, huge pressure in the first series, and it's such a credit to a guy like that. And in this day and age, it's very difficult as a player to not know that people might be talking about you. And it's generally 1 or 2 players in the side, isn't it, that there's always, for some reason, that they need talking points and they'll have to talk about something. You mentioned his record at number 3 is outstanding. And he's the vice captain of the team, scored some brilliant hundreds. So you sort of like, why are people talking about Ollie Pope? But for him to sort of know all that's going on, he scored a brilliant 100 against Zimbabwe, but you know, at the same time, people would say, well, it's not the strongest attack. Well, he's come out in the first test here at Headingley against the best bowler in the world and scored a brilliant 100 for his team when, you know, they're up against it with the Indian side having put on 470 odd in the first innings. So all credit to him.
Laithwaites are proud partners of For the Love of Cricket.
Official wine partners, yeah?
That's the one. They love cricket, so do we, so they're on board.
Have you still got your wine collection with Laithwaites?
Funny you should say that, actually, Jose. Beyond the Wicket, a series of wines by Stuart Brook with a lovely little signature underneath. But yeah, my love of wine grew throughout my cricket career, you know, Australia, New Zealand. Maybe we should have the old podcast where we open a glass. What are you, rosé, white, red?
I'd say white, but I do enjoy a glass of red, cold, roast dinner, fire on, that kind of vibe.
I've had a bit of an idea. We're going to do special episodes with Laithwaites, purely based on questions from the listeners. And through that, we'll create our own little case of wine for the Love of Cricket case, available exclusively at laithwaites.co.uk.
Sounds great. I'll tell you what we'll do. 3 reds for you, for the Test cricket fans, and 3 whites for me, for the white ball purists.
So pour yourself a glass, settle in, and join us for the Love of Cricket with a good bottle of wine from Laithwaites.
Jose, we had a very exciting moment this week where we had a billboard up in Leicester Square, and I actually travelled up there. That sounds mad to say, by the way, doesn't it? Having just said that out loud, but I travelled up there to go and have a look at it. And it was a really unique experience, actually. It was huge. Above a cinema in Leicester Square, our faces kept popping up every couple of seconds we'd be on there. I try and get my phone out. Oh, I've missed it. And I have to wait a little bit longer for us to pop up again. So, and I caught a little video that I sent to you straight away, actually, where I was trying to film myself with you in the background on the billboard, and then suddenly you got replaced by Brad Pitt, which was quite obvious just because...
Really?
Well, how can I say this? He's a famous Hollywood actor, one of the most handsome men of all time.
A little bit better looking, isn't he? So probably doesn't quite have such a big nose. But no, that's amazing. That's pretty cool. Like, pretty surreal to turn up at Leicester Square and see the For the Love of Cricket pod plastered everywhere, and actually proud moment for the pod.
Well, I got there and I thought, this is, didn't really know what to expect. I thought I'd walk out the tube, see this massive billboard and be like, wow, we're the life and soul of Leicester Square. And as I walked up to it, they were doing some maintenance of a drain, I think. So there's like 4 vans just parked all around this billboard, like drilling and digging. And I tried to take a picture of it and all I could see was work vans. So I had to go up to them and say, sorry guys, bit of an awkward question, but how long are you going to be here? Because I sort of need to take a picture of the billboard. But your white van's ruining it. And they said, give us 20 minutes. So I sort of hung around, like, a bit weirdly, just stood by this billboard, flickering our faces every 20 seconds for a couple of seconds at a time.
Did anyone recognise you and stop you to be like...
Yeah, they did. They did.
You're here
it was
to
weird.
Take a picture of yourself.
They didn't actually say it as blatantly as that, but they were certainly thinking it, because I was just stood there, sort of sunglasses on, just quite like admiring the billboards as they were going round. I mean, I sort of, I know the F1 movie's out soon. I saw that a lot. And people would sort of see a billboard and then look at me. Not that many people recognised me, but enough cricket fans had walked past and gone, are you Stuart Broad? I was like, yeah. They're like, what are you doing here? Oh, just a bit of work. Yeah, just a bit of work. Oh, get a quick selfie. Yeah, no problem. And as they were doing that, I'd be praying that our billboard wouldn't come up, because it would look like I just come and I just want to have a look at our billboard. Come on, that's quite exciting.
That's a missed sales pitch, isn't it? Probably like trying to not want the billboard to come up while we're there. You should be directing traffic that way, and a selfie with the selfie, taking a selfie of the billboard.
Well, good point. But my
emotions
weren't feeling that at that time. But yeah, really cool experience. I think, got a couple of pictures, couple of selfies. Had to be very quick. It was up for 2 or 3 seconds at a time. But yeah, seeing my face, your face up on a billboard in Leicester Square is really exciting. Bear in mind we're just recording episode 3, so what should we aim for next? Times Square?
If we crack America, I think we'll be doing all right.
We also had a nice moment, Jose, where Rishabh Pant, the double centurion from Headingley, reposted our podcast story where you were telling the world before he scored those 2 centuries that he was a showman and a superstar. So that must have made you smile.
Yeah, it did. It's always nice to make a little prediction or something, say someone's box office, and then, not that is not well known, but to then go and entertain everyone. And I had a couple of messages with Rishabh, actually. I think he said that's cute in reply to my praising of him. He's one of these guys as well. I'm sure you'll get to see over the next few tests and stuff. He's always walking around with a smile on his face, loves to chat to everyone, has a laugh and a joke. And I think that's why he's such a well-loved cricketer. And I think he's going to be an absolute star of the summer. And people just love the way he plays, the way he carries himself, all that sort of thing. And yeah, just great for him to acknowledge it. And it's always nice, having played against a few guys, to share a couple of messages and those kind of things. So thanks for the call out, Rishabh.
Actually, lots of people have got in touch with us over the last week since our India episode. Message from Johnny Manpal. Really enjoyed the first episode. Great insight into the world of professional cricket. Subscribed and will definitely be listening each week. And Duncan Rouse, listening to episode 1, says, fantastic. I'm in. Hopefully we've got a few more of those. And a message from Jayesh. Damn, Joss's voice is so calming. It's almost therapeutic. He could start his own meditation app. Do you agree with that?
Well, sounds like the For Love of Cricket meditation app is coming. Hopefully it's a little bit more exciting than putting him to sleep. Hopefully calming is in a positive way. But obviously doing something like this, a podcast for the first time, putting ourselves out there. So it's nice to have the support. So thank you, Jayesh.
People have loved the Frank Lampard story, Jose. If you haven't heard it, go to episode 1 and find it. Kick 'em well, mate.
Yeah, I'm waiting for someone to get me out LBW and send me off with kick 'em well, mate. So I'm sure that's coming my way in the coming weeks. It's coming.
Get your comments in. Look for Love of Cricket Pod on socials. And thanks to our partners Sage and Laithwaites. It's a double pod week this week, so we'll be back on Thursday.